The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone. I want to personally thank you so much again for joining us on another presentation from QuikStor University. Today we're going to be going over QuikStor Reports 101. We're going to be going through a number of reports that we find helpful in QuikStor. We know you will too. And this really just comes from our heart of wanting to show our customers, the owners and managers that use our software, how to get more in touch with their business, more in touch with what's going on at their facility to make sure that they are staying on top of any changes that need to take place in their business to further increase profit and efficiency across the board. So definitely want to thank you for being here with us today. One of the things we're going to have a little different this time is we are going to be offering the ability to have you guys send in some questions during the webinar. If you notice on your webinar dashboard, there is a section for you to ask a question. Shayna is in the background listening or reading those questions, and she will be able to answer some of them, although if there is a question that she cannot get to, we would love to get back to you via email afterwards. And if you have any questions that you did not see answered in this presentation, or if you have a question about a specific report, please feel free to send us an email at sales@quikstor.com and just put QuikStor report webinar, or not QuikStor, just report webinar in the subject so we know what it is regarding. Now, we want to, again, thank you for being here with us, but we want to jump right in and get to some of the reports that we're going to be talking about. Now, as we put in the newsletter going out to everyone, we are going to talk about a couple of different types of reports. We're going to talk about some reports that are just kind of generally great and useful for anyone involved in the storage business, but we also want to break it down into some that would be useful for the owner-operator that runs this themselves or with maybe a family member or something, and then those that have a manager that would be working for them that they need to hold accountable. We know that that is just as important as anything in making sure that your business is running efficiently and on the up and up. So without further ado, I want to jump right into some of our most popular reports, those that would be considered general reports. But for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure you do, we do have the Reports tab up here in the QuikStor Express software. Now you can access all these reports from the Smart Client software and also from QuikStor On Demand, which we have shown you guys a couple of times. But all these same reports will be listed. They will show the exact same way, and you can run them at any time. But I want to go ahead and jump right into what we call the 5-Minute Manager. This is by far our most useful report, just as in terms of the scope that it covers. This is our daily report, also known as the EN report for those of you that use the key letters. But this report is a great daily summary for anyone that's looking to just start to get an idea of what's going on at their facility. Now let me point out real quick, you'll notice that this report shows it's for March 18th. For those of you that know what day it is, it's the 19th. Now, it's important to note that this report is what we call a snapshot report. It is going to show for the last completed day of business, and there are a couple of reports in QuikStor Express that are like this, but this is important because this is not going to show today's transactions. And so today, it's only 11 o'clock here in California. There may have been a number of transactions. Obviously, those on the East Coast, you would have more being that it's 2 o'clock, but those are not going to show here in this report. This is going to show for the last completed day of business, and in most cases that's going to be yesterday. So as we see here, you're going to have listed up here in the top your complete collections for the last day of business. Now it's going to break it down by the unit number, the last name, the paid to date, what the total of the payment, and then what that payment consists of. So there is, obviously you have some verification that you can go through and make sure that the checks line up, and just see in general who paid if you want to go through this. You really don't need to go through the details of this unless you do find some error and you want to go back and check this, but you can see real quickly at a glance, and also what the various other, what other categories they might have come in under. Now, a really important part of this report starts right below that section, and it's our running trends and totals for the month to date. So you'll see that right here it'll say through March 18th, which is again what this report is run through. This is how much we had made so far. Now it not going to show an end of month total because we haven't reached the end of month yet. But you'll notice that through the next 6 lines here, next 5 lines for a total of 6 months, it's going to show our previous month's trends. And so we get to see exactly where we were at on the 18th of last month, and the month before that, and the month before that, and the month before that. And so you can see how you're doing comparing to those months. Now, again, you have another comparison down below here for the year to date. So you have collections for March 18th this year, 2012, same thing for 2011, and then 2010. So you can see some trends over the last year where you were last time, and it's a great tool to be able to see how things are changing and if business is slowing down for you or staying where it should be. Same thing with the end of the month. You can see a running trend here. Now, getting to the vacant unit, this is a number that obviously we always want to be pushing down. You always want to be striving to decrease the number of vacant units you have and obviously increasing the occupancy that you have. But this report does give you a breakdown of how many vacant units you have, what that amounts to in terms of a dollar amount of rent, and then also square footage right here. Now that's going to give you, next to it, your total square footage that you have input into the software. And then over here at the end, it's going to be our receivables column. Now the receivables column is going to make it's going to be shown in a couple different reports that we look at, but it is an important field to keep track of because you can really notice trends very quickly on, or not trends, but items that need to be addressed or that may need to be addressed by watching for quick changes in the receivables. If you suddenly see your receivables drop by a good amount just in a given day, you will immediately be able to either find out whether there was an auction that took place and a bunch of receivables were taken off, or you have a bunch of rent that was applied and your manager has not been following up to make sure that tenants are paying and sending out late notices. And so there can be a couple different ways that you can account for that drop in receivables or an increase in receivables if the manager is not on the task of making the calls and getting money collected. So that can be a really important column to keep track of there. And of course, your actual rent is going to be what the possible collection could be done here at the end of the month. Now down below, it's going to give you your move out or your vacated unit list here. And so you can see, these are the ones that were vacated and how much what they owed when they were moved. So these would be auctioned units, and you can see how much that amounted for in terms of a loss there. And that could definitely play into the receivables dropping from something like this that took place. And so these were all done around 10 o'clock, and we can pretty much attribute that to an auction about that time. Now, right below that is going to give you some nice, simple information on your move-ins and move-outs. And again, this is a nice thing that if you look at this report, now we call it the 5-minute manager for a reason. If you look at this report for just 5 minutes a day, you will stay in touch with what's going on. And these numbers will change from day to day, but you will be able to see how things progress throughout the month and obviously keep track with things from today, or in this case yesterday, the last 7 days, 30 days, and first of month, first of quarter. You also have your collections over here on the right. Nice thing to have in terms of throughout the year, or rather year to date, which will show right there. It's going to give you a very simple breakdown of your occupied and vacant percentages. Now this is one of those numbers that as a storage owner you should know what your occupancy percentage is at all times, and you should always be striving to get that number up. And if it's too high, you need to increase rent to make sure that you are maximizing the profit at your facility. We are not in an economy anymore where you can sit back and just let your business be. You should be on top of these numbers. You should be striving to increase them and make your business better on a daily basis. And staying in tune with what the facts are is the very first step, and that's what the majority of this webinar is going to be about, getting you the facts you need to make good decisions. Over here on the right side of this second page of the daily report, we have our receivables. This is going to be a real easy breakdown. Now we have more detailed receivables breakdown that can be obtained through one of many reports in Express, but this is just going to give you a real simple broken down by the number of days. You have less than 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, and then greater than 90. And so you can see the majority of these are going to be less than 30 days. Those that are just late, but not super delinquent yet. Now, continuing on here, we have some useful information. If you have an expected move out, it's going to show here. So that's a good thing to be on top of. Any reservations that are set to expire, you want to make sure you are on top of those. And if there's anyone on the waiting list, this report will show that as well. The last part is that it's going to show you any notices that printed out. So again, in the manager position, you want to follow up with your manager to make sure they got those things done and mailed those out. Any units that were marked damaged, so that they will stay on this list indefinitely. So this is something you can make sure that you are addressing and giving this list to your handyman or whoever needs to address these units to get them back into rentable status. It will also show the last deposit that was made for this facility, and that will show right there. And if there's any manager notes that the manager has put in, they'll list here. Those would be the manager discretion activities, why they did a credit, why they did a debit, why they gave someone free rent. Those would appear down there at the bottom, and what unit those were associated with. So, okay, so that is the daily report. By far, one of the most useful reports in the program, those that everyone loves. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already, and I would be surprised if you didn't. Another really useful report that that is definitely a great summary if you were looking to just get a bunch of information at once about your facility, is the Facility Summary Report. Now, this report can be found under the Operations tab. It's right there at the top of the list. Now, let me also tell you real quickly that I've been mentioning the key numbers or key letters for these reports. Any report letter that I read out today, you can always put in those letters here by using the report selector. So if I want to get to the FSR, I type in FSR, hit find it, it's right there, and I can double click it and it will start to open the report. Now, the Facility Summary Report is a great report because it can be run for a date range. So you can go back and find a specific month's worth of information. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and run it for the month to date so we can take a look at what's going on here. So this Facility Summary Report is going to, like I said, it's going to give us a bunch of information. Now, I do want to point out there are two sections on this report that are not going to be affected by the date range you pick. They are going to be as of today, no matter what you do, and that's going to be the unit analysis and then your delinquent receivables down over here at the bottom. Okay, so those are not going to change regardless of the date range that you put in. No matter what you put, it's always going to show as of today. If you need to find a vacancy or occupancy breakdown for a past month, there are other reports that can accomplish that, and same thing with delinquent receivables, although for the most part why we did it this way is because these, the interest in these things remains with them being current. And so you don't need to go back and look at what you had going on months ago with your occupied and vacant. You should have looked at that in the month and that it was, and you can look at it currently to see exactly what's going on. But just to run through here, this report is going to show you a breakdown of all the money that you've collected and under which category it falls into. So you have current rent, people that are paying for this month and this month only. Past due rent, that would be rent that would be from last month or any time before that. Prepaid rent, again, rent that is outside of the prepaid rent, whatever setting you have here. We have it defaulted to 55 days, so any rent that is for more than 55 days out is going to be considered prepaid rent and in a different category than current rent. Rent tax, if you are charging this will be calculated here for you, so you can see that if you're collecting any money for insurance or any monthly charges, that will be listed here. Pretty self-explanatory, all these other fees that are going into it, but the bottom line is it'll total everything up and give you a gross income, and then you're going to have any reversals or refunds you've given here to give you a net income here right below that. And then very simply below that, it's going to give you a breakdown of what that money and how it was brought in. So you have cash, check, and credit card, and then if any of that was from the manager, daily debit or credit, that will be shown here as well. Now this report, following in the summary aspect, it's going to give you a count, and again, this is based on the date range, and so it's going to show you the number of move-ins in that date range, the number of move-outs, how many transfers, how many cash payments, check, and credit card payments. All useful information when you're trying to get an idea of how many transactions you're doing in a given time. If you're trying to figure out, the workload of your manager, you can obviously see the number of things going on here. right in that section. Jumping up to the unit analysis, this is pretty straightforward. It's going to give you a breakdown of how many occupied units and what percentage of that is, and what that amounts to in terms of a square footage, and then a percentage of square feet. And then you have your vacant, reserved, and damaged, and then your totals here. So you have a total of 856 at this 856 units at this facility for a total of 136,279 square feet. Again, that's not going to change based on the date range you put in. Now, your unit efficiency, this is going to be basically giving you your price per square foot that you're charging from the possible rent you have. Now, this would be that every unit was occupied at the scheduled rate. That's what the possible rent would be. So your occupied rent is going to be what you're actually collecting based on the units you have rented and what you're renting them for, and then your vacant rent is going to be the difference. Now, the actual is going to be adding those two together to give you that number there. Delinquent, again, a very straightforward section here. This is going to be important if you are going to be looking at ways to get this down or find out exactly what you have owed to you. You can troubleshoot. If you keep finding that you have people that are stuck in that 30 to 60 days late, you can figure out a way to get people in to pay sooner, or maybe ramp up your attempts with the manager to get people on the phone, or get them to pay on your using the QuikStor e-commerce or the auto charge. Just there's a lot of ways that you can get people to get these delinquencies down and find out. Obviously you want to be owed less than $14,000 for delinquencies, and trying to get that down as much as possible. So that is the facility summary report. A very useful report indeed. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out of the report selector here. Now I want to jump to a report that is very useful. It's called the collection and deposit, or as the letters are known as the EQ. Now again, this is a date range report. Now this is going to be a useful report because it's going to tell you exactly all the percentages of where your money is coming from, and then give you some percentages down here at the bottom. Pretty straightforward, but one thing I do want to point out that's nice is that it's going to drop on here. Those of you that aren't familiar, you do have some additional income sections that you can customize and add into the standard and professional versions of QuikStor. You can change, we have some monthly charges that can be recurring, and you can customize those. For this facility, they offer a wireless internet charge and electricity. And then you also have some additional miscellaneous charges that you can customize and put the titles in. Now it's going to list those over here, and that's going to be helpful to help you determine the efficiency and how much money you're actually making from those additional items. If it's not working for you or you're not charging enough, you'll see that it's not adding up to a sufficient percentage of the income for you, so you can adjust accordingly. But the nice thing is that it's noted here on the side that it's a monthly charge versus just the miscellaneous accounting charges that can be added. And then, of course, you have the standard charges that can be applied to anyone's account. But getting down here at the bottom, you have some real nice breakdowns of the rent analysis as a function of percentages based on the occupied and the total amount of rent collected, and what the other monies, what that money amounted to in terms of where it came from future rent, past due rent, and so you can see some percentages here. Your unit efficiency, are you renting for top dollar, or rather, are you renting mostly at your scheduled rate, or are you giving away dollars on units that could be paying full price instead of paying some reduced amount? And we're going to get to a report to point those out real quickly here. This is a great part right here, delinquency charge. You want to find out and actually see what your late charges are bringing you in every month. Now, I've talked to a number of owners that they love their late charges. They make $4,000 a month on late charges because people just don't want to pay their bill on time. And to be perfectly honest, he had a great point to say, why would I want them to pay early if they're going to be okay paying a $15 late fee every time? Yes, you do have to chase those people, but if they are paying it and not going past that point of going into lien sale where they become a deadbeat tenant, if you will, you'd probably be okay with making an extra X thousand dollars per month. But you can see exactly what that's amounting to right here on this report with the delinquency charge analysis. And of course, the other charges will be added here if they are applicable. Lien sale charges, cut lock charges, advertising charges, all part of the auction process. And so those are pointed out right here. We have the vacancy and receivables analysis. We have, at the beginning of the month, we had 221 vacant units. As of yesterday, there was 227, so there was an increase. We had vacant rent. So, we've actually seen an increase in vacant units for this time period, and that's not what we want to see on a normal basis. But this would be, there's probably a reason behind this. It looks like there was an auction earlier this month at this particular site with the data I'm using, which accounts for these 6 move-outs, and then some additional drop in the receivables. As we see, we talked about earlier, this receivables dropped by almost $10,000. That was definitely, I'm sorry, it did drop by over $10,000. That was definitely because of the auction that took place and those units that were then marked vacant. So that is the EQ report, collection and deposit analysis. I want to move over to a subject I touched on in that report, and that's the concept of tenants that are paying less than scheduled rent. Now, I know that a lot of storage owners out there have a, they move people in at a lesser amount because they didn't have the unit they wanted, or for whatever reason, a sob story when they're moving in. But in any case, you have people at your facility that are paying less than what the new people moving in are. And this report, which we generated and named very simply tenants paying less than scheduled, will tell you how many tenants are paying less and which ones they are, and then exactly how much that amounts to in terms of a dollar difference that you could be collecting. Now, why is this important? One, it's a time-consuming task to do on your own, and so we made a report to make it real easy to find the people that might need to get a rent raise. But you can see real quickly here, this report's going to point out some very useful information. Apart from the unit, the size, the type and things, and the last name of the facility, it's going to point out what the scheduled rent is for that unit, what the tenant is paying. In this case, scheduled rent's $161, actual rent's $147. That's a difference of $14. This person is paid, a number of months in advance, but you can see right here, the last rent raise, this person has never received one. So it might be a good idea to bump the rent up for this person. Just recover that $14, and as you'll see at the bottom when we get down there, this can amount to a lot of extra money that you could be making every month if you get these people up to paying the scheduled rate. If they did have a rent raise, as this one shows right here, it will show the prior rent previous to the rent raise. In this case, that person was paying $43 less than the scheduled rent, and they bumped them up to significantly more. $147. Now, still $14 below, but it's certainly better than the $118 they were paying before that. Now, I don't need to go through every single tenant here for me to point out how this report can be used. It's really useful for those of you that have maybe just recently converted from a pen and paper method, and you have a bunch of people that are paying less because it was just too hard to keep track of. Now, once you are using QuikStor Express, you can very easily run this report, determine who needs to get the rent raises, and make sure you make that adjustment quickly, because as you can see, the differential at this site, and it looks like it's it's about let's call it 50 units, it's maybe 60 units here. That amounts to an extra $1,400 or almost $1,400 that this facility could be bringing in every month if just these people were bumped up, not to something more than they should be paying, but just what the scheduled rate is. And so that can be a really big boost in your income each month, and you can get this done. And I said 60, I'm sorry, I forgot there was a whole other page. So this one does account for about 20, I'm sorry, over 100 tenants here. Okay, so the tenants paying less than scheduled is a really useful thing here. Now, I want to jump to something I mentioned at the beginning, which is the accountability that owners need to have with their managers. You need to be able to trust your manager, but your manager also needs to know that you have access to the information that they're working with every day. And we at QuikStor have put in things to make sure that your managers remain honest, that they do things on the up and up, and we make things easier for them but we also make sure it's easy for you to make sure they're doing their job right. And so one of the favorite things that you can look up is the manager activity. Again, a date range report, but this report's going to tell you a whole lot about what your manager is doing that would not be considered normal transactions. And so mostly this is going to be the debits and credits that they add on various people's accounts, or if they have a voided payment, or in this case a voided linked payment. It will show all the details here and what they consisted of. Okay, so if there was a something that was added or taken away, like inventory in this case, you would see that, and you would see what unit is for, and then when exactly the transaction was done. But down here at the bottom, it also is going to show you how many credits and what that amounted to as in terms of a dollar. And you obviously want to be keeping track of this and talking to your manager and finding out exactly what it is they're crediting. If they're doing something that you don't like or would like to be done a different way, the first step is realizing that things are not being done exactly how you want. And then the second will be addressing it with the manager with a factual report like this, saying, there's just too many credits being given. I see here you're giving a lot of late fees away, and I'd like to find out what we can do to keep that from happening. And again, it all starts with the information. It all starts there. So that's a great place to start, just from having the information from a useful report like this. So this is the manager activity, also known as the EYA, and that is a good report to be in touch with in terms of working with your manager. Now, I've covered a few reports here, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little longer than I had planned, but I do want to go over a couple things for the managers to use, reports that can just make your job easier and get you information to make you stand out to your owner, and just also making sure that you guys are on top of what your business is doing to bring people in. But we all know how important the phone is, and getting phone calls, no matter what you're doing, having the information at your fingertips to be available to answer questions to tenants as they call in. One of our favorite reports, or at least one of mine, is what we call the 3 available report. Now, this is a great report because you can literally have it set to print every day or emailed to you every day. If you print it, it's great because you can just fold it up, put it in your back pocket. I know a lot of you are managers that have a cordless phone in the office, and when the phone rings or when it gets forwarded to that phone, if you're out showing a unit or if you're out doing cleanup or doing walkarounds, whatever it might be, you can have this in your back pocket and be completely prepared for someone to call and ask you any question about what availabilities you have. This report is going to pull the 3 available units from every type of unit you have and give you some very basic but important information on them. So your 5x5, someone, and what does it cost, and what how much would it be to move in? So right here, you'd be able to tell them, all right, well, you have a 5x10 in the climate control section. I have 3 of them available. I have units 320, 322, and 324 available. The monthly rent for that unit is $74. And if you move in today, it's going to cost you $29.60 plus a $10 admin fee. That'll move you to the first, and that'll be it. Now, of course, you may charge an additional month's rent. You may have a flat move-in fee. But the bottom line is, you know exactly how much that unit is. It even goes the one step farther with calculating the prorate amount, so you can be the knowledgeable manager that person, that potential customer, potential long-lasting customer, will be impressed with by the knowledge that you had over the phone so quickly, and be able to get them the information they need. That's priceless. You can't get that or wow a customer more than being prepared when they're on the phone with you and being as they are impressed. So you can see right there, I don't need to go and explain any more about why this report can be useful. It's great. Print it, fold it up, put it in your back pocket, or print it, email it, or rather email it to yourself and keep it on your smartphone as you're walking around. Always have this available to you. You'd be surprised how many times it can wow a customer and just give you the confidence to know exactly what's going on at your facility. Now, another thing that kind of goes in line with that is the sorry, here, look for this report. I'm going to go ahead and type it in. It's called the EYW. And this is the Facility Review and Walk-Around Form. I'm going to go ahead and click yes on that. Now, what this report is going to do, this is going to give you basically a checklist. And if you need to go around and make sure that units are locked or unlocked or overlocked, you can take this list. It's going to print out one for every unit. Basically, every unit of yours is going to be listed, and you will be able to take this, put it on a what are those things called? I don't know, the clipboard. Wow, can't believe I forgot that. Carry around a clipboard with you, and you can obviously sign and turn this in to the owner at the end of the day, or if you are a relief manager, turn this into the main manager. But the bottom line is this is a very useful tool. Now, you can see there are a lot of pages on here, but this is a great thing for you to keep this list and then come back and put this information back into QuikStor if you need to. If there's some comment you need to make, there was damage to the unit or there was trash, whatever it might be, this is a great little useful thing to have as a manager and have access to that. Now, going back to what I mentioned a few minutes ago about managers being able to take a look at where their tenants are coming from and determine, what sources are working for them. Advertising and marketing is an important part of any storage business, and you need to make sure that the money you're putting into whatever it is, whether it's an online website, a big sign out on the highway, a sign on your property, monthly mailings that are going out, you want to find out if they're working. And so by asking a customer, where are they hearing from you, let me quickly point out for those of you that don't know where this is, when someone moves in, right here on the miscellaneous tab, there is a how did they hear about us section. Now you can, with QuikStor Express Standard or Professional, you can customize and put in anything you want here, and that's a great thing to do because you can customize and put yellow page ad, you can put penny saver or classifieds or websites or frontage signage, whatever you want to put. But the important thing is that you can go back and run reports on exactly where your customers are coming from. So over here in analysis, under the marketing reporting here, we have tenant sources. Now, there's two reports I want to show you on this, tenant sources and then also tenant sources for revenue breakdown. Now, tenant sources is going to show us just real simply the sources we have ever had listed, how many number of tenants came as a result of those, and then what percentage that was of the total number of tenants. Okay. Now it's going to do it up here for current tenants, and then down below it's going to have it for former tenants. Now, one thing to note, you'll see that a lot of these it shows deleted from sort list, deleted from source list. If you have added a source and then taken it off, it will show over here. So you want to be careful and be mindful of what you're putting in because it can slightly skew these numbers for you. But it is still very useful if you are careful about what you're putting in, not putting in things that will not tell you much. But you can see how this report can tell you a lot. So former tenants, obviously there's going to be many, many more of those if you've been around for a long time and using QuikStor for a long time. But these shown here, it's going to give you percentages, pretty straightforward. And then it's going to give you a total combination, former and current tenants here, broken down there to the end. Now, as I mentioned, I want to also show you the what I think is a really useful breakdown. This is going to be for date range. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this for the whole month of February. So we see a full month here. Now you can see that now it's just taken that other report and the tenants associated with each source and then broken it down and calculated in terms of a revenue amount that has been brought in by that source. Now this is a real easy way for you to determine if a source is working for you or not. Now the sources are still going to be listed here, but this dollar amount just adds new life to this report, and you can see real quickly where the majority of the money being brought into your facility originated from. At this facility, it looks like the majority, and not by much, has been drive-by. So you have a signage, you have a good location, you have people that are seeing you and recognizing your facility as a pillar in the community. They know who you are. When they think storage, they think you. Existing tenant, this could be referrals or past tenants coming back, but still that should be a very strong percentage there, because your customer base should be your most valuable asset there in terms of them referring their friends and family to you because you offer a great storage product. So this, again, is a very useful report that allows you to put a dollar amount on those sources and make sure that if you are spending any money on getting new business, you are spending it wisely, and you can make those adjustments real quickly here. Well, that pretty much covers the basics of what I wanted to go over today. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, if you have some questions about a specific report, I would love for you to email sales@quikstor.com and just put webinar, QuikStor webinar reports, or reports webinar in the subject line, and we'd love to get back with you with any questions you have. We know that there are a lot of reports, and over 150 is a lot to read and get to know. But we also know that they're there for a reason. They're there because over 25 years of storage industry experience has led us to these reports, and we are happy to share what we can with them about them with you at any time. So always feel free to let us know, and you can always give us a call. We'd love to talk. But I hope you've enjoyed your webinar today on QuikStor Reports 101. We will be having some more advanced reporting webinars in the upcoming future, and this webinar will be available for future viewing on our website probably tomorrow. Hope you have a great day today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again.